you want to build mobile-ready training platform for the users of the Microsoft 365? Free version of the Microsoft Viva Learning could help you to do that. Today I would like to introduce you to one of the youngest applications in the Microsoft 365 family, Microsoft Viva, and especially in the Microsoft Viva Learning. If you're following me on this channel, you probably already know that Microsoft Viva is a group of applications that are separated or sometimes integrated, but this is not one application. There are multiple available apps, a number of the pieces of the Microsoft Viva suite growing and growing. Today in this video I would focus in the Microsoft Viva Learning app and how to use it in your organization to benefit your users who are using Microsoft 365. You will see Microsoft Viva Learning in free version could be something that will be very beneficial for training purposes in the organization. You don't have to pay any additional money to start to use it, and deployment of the application will be quite quick. And as always, I would like to ask you to support this channel. If you would like this video, please leave your thumbs up. If you want to get the notifications, please subscribe. And what is important, Microsoft Viva Learning is the free application that you can deploy in the Microsoft Teams and allow your users to use it as your centralized learning platform. And this application is available for free and it works very well on the mobile devices. You can provide multiple trainings materials through the providers available in the free version. It could be Microsoft Learn resources, Microsoft 365 training, LinkedIn learning platform, or your internal resources that you will share with your users using SharePoint to host it. It could be videos, PDF files, or any other training materials that you will have there, and all of that can be delivered for free. You should interpret that application like some kind of training players for the users or training aggregator from multiple sources. The training can be very easily consumed through the portal. You can rate them, you can track your progress, you can bookmark them. This is not complex application, but it allows you to provide that kind of training for the end users, and what is most important, you can do that for free. You can see this is great player for your training materials that you already gathered. You can use that application to deliver very user-friendly interface for your end users and allow them to get through this training using Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Viva Learning application that will be deployed there. And I will repeat that again, which is quite important. These trainings can be also used on the mobile devices, which nowadays could be something very important. And I want to stop you for a moment before we will move forward to start to configure that application, to remind you about any kind of limitations of this application. Microsoft at the very initial steps position it as a learning management system. I think it's fair to say it's nothing like a learning management system. It allows you to bring trainings from complex learning management systems and deliver them to the end users using premium version of the license. But in general, this is more like aggregator or player for your training materials or any free resources that you can use there. There's no SCORM, there's no tracking, there's no rates. So this is important. If you will have trainings that will have some kind of legal requirements like, I don't know, approval of the code of conduct of the organizations or things like that, Microsoft Viva Learning will not help you to address it. But at the same time, if you want to plan adoption for the end users for the Microsoft 365, or you have the trainings that are landing somewhere on the SharePoint, Microsoft Viva Learning could help you to deliver these materials very quickly, very easy way to the end users, and you don't have to pay anything to do that. I could imagine that many of you could think about Microsoft Viva Learning as a complex learning management system, but still I would like to recommend you to try this application, to deploy it, to play with it, to see how it could work, because I'm sure that sooner or later you will find the scenario when you can use that kind of application to deliver the trainings for the end users efficient way. And I'm sure you know that many times lack of the trainings could deliver a lot of problems in the organization, and you have free tool in the Microsoft 365 which you can use to provide such trainings to the users very easy way. Now we will switch to my screen, which I will show you how to configure free version of the Microsoft Viva Learning app and to build centralized player for your trainings inside your organization. The first step when you're creating the learning application based on Microsoft Viva Learning is to create the space where you will host your data. This will not be the space to collaborate with others, just to host the data and maybe build a learning site on top of that. That will also provide additional training materials or additional features to your end users. When you will set up the name of the site, just create it. And as a first step, you will get the possibility to apply specific template, and I highly recommend using Learning Center as a template for your end users and to space to host your data. You will see probably at the very beginning you will not use all features or all available web parts that are present in here, but in general, sooner or later you can adapt this site very easily. You can see look and feel is very nice. So if you need to host your training materials somewhere, do that in such a site. Now we will have to switch to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center and assign this already created site in the configuration of the Viva Learning, and also to enable this application in the organization. Go to settings and the organization settings and look for the Viva Learning application. As soon as you will open it, you will get the configuration of the free version of the Microsoft Viva Learning platform. In this configuration panel, first of all, you get the possibility to allow users to upload useful training materials. This is something that you will need to decide if you want to engage people to provide the trainings. From my perspective, this is a great idea, but somebody will need to monitor that to be sure that proper materials will be uploaded by the end user. So just select that option. And in the next step, you can decide which kind of providers of the training materials you want to integrate. You can see in the free version of Microsoft Viva Learning, you get the access to the learning materials from LinkedIn platform, Microsoft Learn, Microsoft 365 Training and SharePoint. So this will be the space that we will use. And you need to remember that some training materials are free from LinkedIn Learning platform, but some requires premium access. But again, if you want to deliver complex training platform, maybe most of these materials will be useful for you. So let's select them. And in this case, we need to add our SharePoint site address in this box. Paste the address of your SharePoint site in here. And the last thing you need to decide is if you want to also send some kind of diagnostic data to Microsoft, but this is your decision in the end. After you will paste this address, it will take some time to Microsoft Viva Learning to deploy the specific content on this site, which will allow us to configure our training materials for the end users. And one more useful information, on the top you can see these are the free training sources that you can use using free version of the Viva Learning. But at the same time, if you want to extend this platform and aggregate any other training platforms like Coursera, edX, Pluralsight, Udemy, SuccessFactors or any other, you will need to buy Viva Learning premium licenses. This is something required to do that. In this case, we will just limit our setup to the data hosted on the SharePoint and usage of the free version. So let's save the data. Now give some time, maybe 15 minutes for Microsoft SharePoint to do the deployment. Then check your site, and in the next step I will show you what kind of data sources you can expect there. We are back to our SharePoint site. Now go to the site contents and check what kind of structure you have here. First of all, you can see that we have one more additional component, Learning App Content Repository. This will be the space where we will map our training materials to our Viva Learning application. We will not host any data in here, but we will use that list to map our data to the content in the Microsoft Viva Learning app. And before we will get there, the only thing we can do is to use our documents. This will be the space where we will host our data and create the few folders that will be aggregated as a training materials in here. Our folder structure for training materials is created. The next step will be to create the links for this data that will map this content to the Viva application. So you open context menu of the folder and use option copy link and copy that link. In the next step, we will get back to our list and create the records that will map Viva application to this data structure. So we get to the content of the site and we getting back to our list and we creating the new record, create the adoption training for the copy link that we used and repeat that operation for all the folders that you want to map to the Viva applications in this window. Our structure is ready. We mapped our folders when we will host our training materials and Viva Learning will read that data. So we are back in our document library. We opening our empty folder yet and we will extend the structure of the metadata for few additional options using add column option. These steps will be a little more complex, so in the description of the video you will find detailed requirements about the columns that need to be added, but I will shortly show you what kind of columns you should add. First column will be multiple line of text when you will use the name ContentDescription, and this will be the description of the training material that will be displayed in the Viva Learning app. So add this column and we continue that process. We will add the next column, which will be the hyperlink. In this case we will use ThumbnailWebURL, and this will be the link to the thumbnail of our training material that will be displayed again in the Viva Learning app. The next column we will add will be column of the number type, and it will be duration. It will describe number of the seconds, how long the training will be. The next column will be something called manage metadata, name it SkillTags, and also select more options and allow multiple values. And to use that option you will need to create specific term set, which will be some kind of tagging available for your end users. This part could be also a little more tricky because you will need to have at least one term set and term store created here that you can use, and this will be some kind of container, global container of the metadata. And we will not dig in details to this setup, but in general in the SharePoint Admin Center there is term store when you can create that kind of term set there. And this will be some kind of dictionary used in here. Again, SkillTags, save that. The last column which you will need to create is the multiple line of text, and in this case it will be content author. In this space you will be able to name author or authors of the specific training material. So save it. And now when you will go back to the documents, you will see that this metadata is also populated in the whole structure. So all content materials that you will be able to upload here could be described in this metadata. Thanks to that, this material will be easily used in the Viva Learning app. When you will upload the files to your specific training, you can describe it with the metadata using grid view, and exactly like in Excel you can copy the content here it will be easier then to display that data in the Viva Learning platform. You can see I describe these videos in the very short description, link to the thumbnail I prepared, information about the duration, tags that describing how this specific metadata can be used, what kind of skills can be presented in there, and who is the author. You can see I uploaded here specific videos, but in general you can add here PDF files, presentations, documents, or just the links to the external training material which is somewhere else. You can see this is quite powerful, especially if you have maybe not complex but very useful training materials that are built based on PDFs or presentations. This is something that you can easily use. If you have recorded meetings as a videos, this is also a perfect way to implement them directly in here. So now we will switch to the Viva Learning app in Teams and check if the data is visible there. And one more thing that you should remember when you set up your content in the SharePoint, you will need to manage access who should see what. And the only supported way to do that is to manage that through Microsoft 365 groups. To create such a group, you will need to go to the admin center and from there create the group, assign the users who will have access assigned then to the SharePoint content. Go to Teams and Groups and Active Teams and Groups and create the new Microsoft 365 group. Move forward to the next step, name that group and move to the next step. Add the owners, so people who will have control who will be added to that group, and also move forward to add the members. As soon as you will add the members, assign specific email address and create that group. This is very important because you will need to assign this group to the SharePoint content to be sure that this data will be synced then to the Viva app in the Microsoft Teams and users will have proper access to that data. You can create multiple groups like that, but in the end you will need to assign them in the SharePoint. So let's get back to SharePoint and do that. So we are back on our SharePoint site. The only thing we need to do is to select Manage Access to our adoption trainings and add specific group. You can see we found the Microsoft 365 group which we created previously. We adding that access and we deciding if the users will have access only to view the content or any kind of edit access. Let's start with the view content. We grant the access. Now it could took about 24 hours to populate that change into the Viva application and to grant access to the end user. Remember about that, this is very important step. We get back to our Microsoft Teams application. So first thing we need to do is to add Viva Learning to our Microsoft Teams app. You can see Viva Learning is already listed in here. We can add it to our Microsoft Teams application. And remember that updates on the Viva Learning application could be a little slower. It could take some time Viva Learning to upload your information. And remember that sometimes updates on the Viva Learning based on your changes could take a little more time. If your Microsoft Teams application will not be refreshed and restart of it will not help, switch for the moment to the Microsoft Teams application in the browser, and then you should be able to see all information that are important for you. First of all, you will get the possibility to check if your mapping to the SharePoint content is proper. Just click check access and you will see if the proper setup of the configuration is done. And remember that SharePoint content could be loaded in about 12 or 24 hours, so it will not be available immediately. Moreover, you will get the access to your learnings and to the admin panel, so you will have also additional possibilities to check how the syncing of the content looks like with other training platforms. In this case, you can see that 2 are in progress and 2 are working well. But still remember, some elements that need a little more time to be refreshed, and this is the space where you can create some kind of featured training. So just select the training and highlight it for the end users for the specific date. Just refresh that. So let's wait for a moment as our training materials will be present here, and we will see how our work is presented in the Viva Learning app. And sometimes it is required to wait up to 24 hours to see that our training materials that we did set up are available in our Viva Learning application. You can see it looks quite nice. We have the training materials, we have the videos that are dedicated for our team's users. We can provide that content directly from Microsoft SharePoint, and we can play that kind of videos for our team members. This is the cheapest way to do that. I also understand that in general the scope and the way how this setup have to be done in the area of the Microsoft Viva could be a little tricky, and it requires some time from you to do the setup and the configuration, but you can see the results are quite nice. You can get really great looking application that centralize your training materials. You can host that data in SharePoint, and what is most important, this application is available for free and you can use it also on the mobile devices. Try it on your Microsoft 365 tenant and see, maybe your users will love it. Bravo, we get to the point when your Microsoft Viva Learning application is configured and deployed in your organization on your Microsoft 365 tenant. The next step will be to gather the training materials across your organization, to upload it to your space and map the descriptions of the trainings, prepare the thumbnails and deliver it to your users. I guarantee having great looking simple app for the trainings that your organization already have will be beneficial for every employee in your organization. Moreover, I encourage you, if you have productive meetings where you're sharing your knowledge, record them, share this kind of knowledge through Microsoft Viva Learning app. This will be only beneficial for your organization. Thank you very much for watching and see you in the next videos.